Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Craig Wichner, and he is founder and managing partner over at Farmland LP. This episode is part of our Milking Global Conference series where we feature some of the top guests, participants, panelists, speakers, and attendees of the Milking Global Conference in Beverly Hills, California. And Craig, hey, first off, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Great to speak with you.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about here today. So I want regenerative farming, better for people, profits, and the planet. Can't beat that. And I want to get further into what you're doing over at Farmland LP. So just to get us kicked off here, what got you into the regenerative farming space? Like, how'd that start for you?
Great. So I grew up spending 10 summers on a farm, but also loved science, loved business, had a good business career, and really around the time that my daughter was born, I was a little bit of a late dad, had kids in my late 30s, and I think being a parent changes your brain. You really stop thinking about yourself and really think about your kids, also really what you're doing for the world. And having my daughter really put me on this kind of 2-year trek of looking at what was I really doing to make a difference in the world. I wasn't happy with how the environment was going, with the world basically that we were leaving for our kids, and was also concerned about the economy at that time. It was around 2009, so we'd had a crash and there were credit issues, and I was an investor in private equity and real assets, and really just wanted to get away from debt, Ultimately, I was looking at buying some farmland for myself. And because I have a degree in biological sciences, I knew that managing farmland, focusing on healthy soil biology, was actually going to be a better way of managing farmland. And so I have geeky friends, and I'm a geek, so did a tremendous amount of kind of research on that. Went up to Oregon to look at buying farmland for ourselves and really saw that farmland was this wonderful asset, but was generally used to grow low-value commodity crops. And that I saw that if we converted it over to organic regenerative agriculture, that it would actually be a better way of managing this farmland. We could actually increase the returns on this farmland. And really, after this week-long road trip, on the drive home, I crafted Farmland LP. It basically realized that me buying farmland myself, I would need at least $10 million worth of farmland to make it profitable if I drove the tractor, which isn't a great idea for me, or your daughter, or $50 million. Exactly. Or $50 million worth of farmland if we were going to get the cost structure down to kind of a private equity level. And so I don't have that. But I know how to create private equity funds and build businesses. And so on that drive home, really created Farmland LP right then. And I've been working on it full time ever since. It's been over 15 years now.
Wow, what an amazing story. And I guess just to go further into the nuts and bolts of it, what differentiates regenerative farming from conventional farming? Like, can you maybe shed some light on that?
Great question. So kind of conventional or industrial agriculture is really focused on chemistry, and regenerative agriculture is focused on biology. You obviously need to get the chemistry right for healthy soils, but really focusing on the biology side has a tremendous amount of benefits. The conventional industrial agriculture system was really developed back in the 1950s and the whole system basically continues up until today. And it's really based on wartime technology. So ammonium nitrate is an explosive that they pack in the shells and in bombs. And after the war, they had these ammonium nitrate factories that didn't have sales anymore, but they realized that if they sold it to farmers and put it on farmland, it was nitrogen. It would actually cause the plants to grow faster. And so when you start doing that, then you're also fertilizing the weeds. Well, they had herbicides like Agent Orange and things like that. So they were able to spread those chemicals as well. They also had a lot of insects. When you start growing monocrops of corn, then you start feeding all the bugs that eat corn. And after 2 or 3 seasons, you have tens of millions of bugs that eat your crop, so you need to spray them. Well, they had mustard gas from World War I and other toxins from later on. And so they basically just applied all this wartime technology and wartime infrastructure to farmland. And that is essentially the agricultural model that we have today. Plant fence post to fence post, get big or get out. That's literally the agricultural policy that we have in the United States, and using all of these chemicals. Well, farmland is a biological system. It's part of the ecology. You want healthy plants that grow well, that produce great yields, and produce great tasting fruit. And I personally don't want to eat or feed my kids crops that have a lot of pesticides or herbicides on them. And it's actually a better form of agriculture. It's more complex, takes more time to convert over to it, but it really has a lot of rewards. And so we set up Farmland LP specifically to buy high quality farmland with great water rights and convert it from that old chemical system to a healthy biology-based system, and then bring in multiple farmers at scale to farm these crops in wonderful regenerative agriculture rotations.
Obviously, I know you come from the money space, so private equity. So go a little bit more into like why this is maybe not just good for the planet, but it's good for profits. Like it's good business.
It's really important for, basically either you're a charity and you're raising charitable dollars, which is essentially kind of less than 2% of the economy, or if you want to make a change, then you want to actually have a business model that's beneficial all the way around. And so we basically set out to demonstrate, to prove that organic regenerative agriculture was more profitable than chemical-dependent commodity agriculture. And we've done that now. And so one of the things that we've shown, so when you convert from conventional agriculture to organic agriculture, you're able to access the price premiums for organic goods. You're also switching from industrial corn, which might get sold for ethanol or feedlots, into organic vegetables or organic blueberries or other high-value crops that people actually want. You're producing more value per acre of land. And when you produce more value per acre per land, both the farmers make more money and our investment fund makes more money. To make it very specific, we've demonstrated that we're buying farmland that previously grew commodity crops generating rents of $300 an acre. When we take it through that 3-year organic conversion process, we get rents of $775 per acre. So a very nice step up in cash flow. The farmers are more profitable, and so are our investors. Also benefits land values as well.
What is, as you've gone through this, and I'll use this word, but you've been, evangelizing or really spreading this. So you've been 15 years in, I heard that, right? Like you've been doing this for a while. So
yep, that's right.
What's been kind of the response to this approach that you're taking? Like how receptive is I don't know if I should be asking the farming community, the community centered around farming, or just in general? So not picking on one particular group, but what's been the response to this approach and to what you're out there, selling?
That's great. Well, to start with the farmers, usually the neighbors, when we're buying farmland, the neighbors see us start to go through the organic conversion process. They're pretty darn skeptical.
Yeah.
They've been
I would be too.
Hey,
for the record, man, you think about like how the farmers have it from way back when. They should be. They're the last skeptical ones. I'm a fan. Go ahead. I had to just throw that out there. I would be too. I'd be like, who's this guy coming over here trying to tell us how to do what we do? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it is exactly right, which is why we're not in the evangelizing business. Like we really buy the land.
I needed a better word. I couldn't come up with it. Go ahead.
No, it's great. And really, when we buy a piece of farmland, we really just kind of keep our heads down and we just do our work. And initially, the farmers are like, why is all that strange stuff growing on that? Why are you bringing in sheep and cattle on land? We haven't seen those here in 50 years. Organic doesn't work. Everybody knows that. And then, but after a few years, then we had one neighbor farmer come over and says, well, what is that cover crop mix you're using over there? That looks pretty good. So after a while, when they see the system, it's a new system. Well, it's also an old system, 250 years old, the 4-field crop rotation model, essentially. But so the farmers are skeptical until they see it working year after year. And typically the older farmers, they're continuing to do what they do, but their kids are generally very interested in organic and regenerative agriculture. It's just hard to take farmland through that 3-year conversion period. So us buying the farmland, us taking it through that 3-year conversion period and mapping out the crop rotations, that allows a former conventional tomato farmer, for example, to rent some organic land for us to grow organic tomatoes and really kind of stick their toe in the water, have great experience getting great economics from growing organic tomatoes, and then it just starts snowballing. And in fact, one of our largest farmers is actually he started out as a 30-year-old kid of one of the previous farmers who had been on our land and helped us transition. We paid him to transition the land, but the kid was someone who came in and did exactly that, started growing organic tomatoes the same way he'd grown conventional tomatoes, just using organic materials, was very successful. And now he's one of our largest tenants, leasing over 1,000 acres of land from us each year, and very successful and very profitable. So those farmers do convert. It just takes some time. Consumers, there's incredible demand for organic food. So about 6% of the U.S. food budget is spent on organic food. That's about $65 billion a year. It's a very major sector. And like Costco sells about 10% of the organic food in the U.S., and their CEO says that they can't get enough organic supply to keep their shelves stocked day after day. So that organic market would actually be larger if there was more organic food. You need organic farmland in order to grow the organic food, and that's the problem that we're helping to solve.
I want to shifting focus slightly here, talking about trade and labor policies and the effects they're having on farming operations, food security, food prices. What kind of impact do the shifting trends kind of have, like in your space?
In our specific space for the organic sector, there's most organic food is actually grown in the U.S. and consumed in the U.S. So less than 1% of organic food is exported, and only about 7% of high-value fruits and vegetables, organic, are imported. So actually, when the tariffs go up, it actually makes our domestic market a little bit larger on that standpoint. So we're actually really insulated from that kind of stuff. The rest of the agricultural system is really dependent on labor policy and imports. People estimate somewhere between 40 and 60% of domestic labor in agriculture is immigrant, or either legal or illegal immigrant labor. And that's really being scared off. Not only do we have good legal labor, we have nice year-round labor as well, because our organic and regenerative systems actually require people working all year long. It's very efficient, so we're able to give our people healthcare benefits and other things like that. The other thing that our scale allows us to do, so we manage over $300 million worth of farmland in the U.S., about 20,000 acres. And we are really able to lean into automation and mechanization. So where normally you might have 100 people harvesting blueberries, we can actually serve that with 4 people on a blueberry harvesting machine. So as you get to better scales, you get much more efficiencies as well.
Oh, I'll tell you, I'm getting geared up here, just so you know, Craig. I don't know if you know much about our involvement at Mission Matters when it comes to farming or things like that, but I'll be next week heading to the Texas FFA convention. This will be my 4th year in a row, and love going out there and supporting the FFA. And when I do a bunch of interviews on site with the members, so the young adults that make up the organization, and I'm going to be talking about farming. So it's fun to be. I learn so much every year I go to that, so it's fun. To me, it's our future. Our next generation is secure in these kids, man. I'll tell you, they're absolutely. I shouldn't say kids, members, young adults. They're absolutely amazing. So I have some new things to bring up. It's good.
Yeah, the young people in agriculture, they're so important. And there's about $4 trillion worth of farmland in the U.S. And that's about the same economic value as all the apartment buildings in the U.S. and all the office buildings in the U.S.
Wow.
It's a lot of value. And most of that is owned by, so about 40% is owned by absentee landlords and 60% is owned by existing farmers. But the average age of farmer is almost 60 years old. So that young farmer getting access to farmland is a really big challenge. And most of those young farmers are actually really interested in organic and regenerative agriculture. And it's incredibly hard for them to get access to organic farmland. Usually the larger businesses who are already successful in organic are the ones who convert their own farmland. It's very hard for a young farmer to get access to enough farmland and then be able to take it through that 3-year conversion period. So that's one of the things that's actually important to us, is creating opportunities to that next generation of farmer, because that's what's going to determine agriculture for the next 50 and 100 years, is what kind of farmers are farming, what are the farmers, how are those farmers farming that land?
Yeah, it's great. Craig, if somebody wants to follow up, learn more, how do they do that?
Great. They can come visit us at farmlandlp.com, and we reach out on the contact form, and we're glad to connect with them.
Perfect. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put the links in the show notes so you can just click on the link and head right on over. And speaking to the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Craig, man, again, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for the work you do.
Great talking to you, Adam. This is great.